Do you want ideas for turning your 12 by 12 paper into cards without making scraps? Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have 12 by 12 paper busting template for A2 cards number 21. That means there are 20 others free and available at jesscrafts.com that you can download, and this one is available at the first link in the video description. There's a link you can sign up with your email and get the template sent to you. If you prefer not to get the templates individually sent to you, or if you want to see more of them, you can go to my Etsy shop where I have templates, 12 by 12 templates 1 through 30 available, and so you can see the next 9 before they're even shared here on my YouTube channel. My patrons and YouTube members also get access to those templates early, so that's another alternative way to get that early access. Okay, so today's I'm going to make some cards for Valentine's Day, but they're not very Valentine-y necessarily. This is also the Nitpicky Winter collection from Fawn, so it's not necessarily a Valentine's paper, but because it's pink and it has some hearts, it works well for Valentine's Day. And of course, you can take this sketch and turn it into whatever theme you want. I look at my sketch and it tells me that I need to cut my paper to 3.5 wide by 12 for this first column. So I'm going to cut there at the 3.5, and then I need 2 3.5-inch squares, and then 2 pieces of paper that are 3.5 by 2.5. So I can cut it to 7.5 again at 3.5. You don't have to worry about all of these measurements. They're going to be available for you when you download the template. And then this other piece needs to be cut to 2.5. The other type of thing, so I'm going to do that 2 more times for these 2 columns, and then the other column shows me that I want these strips that are 3/4 inch wide. So instead of trying to cut 3/4 inch off of 12 by 12 paper, I'm actually just going to measure from the side. So this happens to be 8.5 at this point. So I'm going to go 3/4 of an inch in from there to 7 3/4, and then do that again, which will bring me to 7 inches. And I'll have these 3/4 inch pieces without having to bring it to that really narrow strip. Then these pieces get cut to 4 inches long, so I can say 8 and then 4, and I have the 3 pieces I need. I repeat that 1 more time for that second strip. I'm going to want to cut some cardstock mats. I'm going to use some pink cardstock for my mat. This is 100 pound from Recollection, so it's pretty thick paper. You can get the thinner paper. I just don't really like to die cut with that, so I like to just have all my cardstock be the thick stuff, since that's what I reach for most often, and Recollections can be pretty inexpensive for that option. So I'm going to do monochromatic pink on pink. I need to cut mats for each of my pieces. I'm not going to show you every single step of the cutting process. All the measurements are right here for what mats you need. So for instance, it says your 3.5 by 3.5 inch square needs a 3.25 by 3.25 inch mat. I like to do 1/4 inch mats, so the measurement's always just 1/4 inch bigger than the piece of paper. Occasionally I will have to pick another measurement to make it fit on the card or something like that, but that's just my general preference. You can go with smaller mats, you can skip the mats, you can change it up how you like. And so here I would have those mats for my squares. And then I'll keep going and cutting all the mats according to the measurements. This particular sketch makes 6 cards, so there are 6 squares, 6 smaller rectangles, 6 long strips. So I have 1 of each of those 3 pieces because each card is assembled with 1 of each piece. And this is double-sided paper, so it has the sort of sweater pattern on one side and then the simple knit pattern on the other. And then what I can determine is how do I want to mix up my papers. This side here with the larger knit, I'm like, well, you know, what I like about that is it could allow me to stamp a sentiment directly onto it because it's not an overly busy paper. At the same time, that's kind of true of this side as well. I do think it would be pretty readable because my sentiment might go like here in this area or something like that. So that's something I might consider. That's, one way I might determine which one I want. And also just, testing it out. So for this particular sketch, I would probably make the long strip and the smaller rectangle the same pattern, and then make this background pattern different because they're sitting on top of it. So these two smaller rectangles are sitting on top of the large square, and therefore the two patterns aren't directly touching, or the two pieces that are the same are not directly touching. You just do it however works for you. Your patterns, that might make a difference. You might just want a little accent of one of your patterns, in which case you might want to put it here. And then we're just going to tape all of these down to their mats to assemble the card. So I taped them down to their mat. I put some adhesive behind these, and one of the things about my sketches is it is no patterned paper scrap. So as you see, when you cut this piece of patterned paper, every single piece of it is used. There's no scraps there. However, you may create cardstock scraps in the process. And I find it too limiting to try to say, oh, no scraps of any kind, because you might be using different kinds of cardstock, like sizes and things like that. And I also find cardstock scraps easier to use. I'll do a number of things with them. One thing I will do is, sometimes this works you can use it in this card. I'm going to take this piece here, and it's kind of going to hang over the edge here. And it's fine. You can just tape that down. You don't have to worry about it too much. Especially if you're using thinner cardstock, it's not as noticeable, but because this is actually pretty thick, high quality paper from Fawn, and because I'm using thicker cardstock, I sometimes like to take a little scrap of cardstock and just place it underneath that layer so that things lay a little bit more evenly. Since I'm using Fawn paper, I decided to go into my stash of Fawn stamps and see what I thought might work well. This I think was in 2023 when they released for their Valentine release, although I guess they released it the year before, so 2022. But last time they did Valentine's Day, they had done these beavers. And there was like the small set, the larger set, and then there was the party beaver who was like your free birthday gift. So you might have got it at a different time, but they had this whole like beaver thing, and I thought, well, I haven't really used these as much as I would have liked to. So I pulled them out and I thought, I'll, color a bunch of beavers. Since I'm going to make 6 cards, I can color beavers from a few of the different sets. So I have the little huggin' beavers and even the party beaver. Because even though he's supposed to kind of be like a birthday beaver, I colored the cupcake pink, and I thought that'll still look really cute for Valentine's Day. Now, I'm going to show you briefly what I would do in terms of coloring it, but if that's not for you, you can just skip ahead a little bit into the video, and I will be finishing up the card. So I noticed that when you look at like cartoon beavers, they tend to have a darker tail and a lighter body. So that's how I'm going to color mine today. And I'm just going to pick 3 colors of Copic markers that are in the same line of colors. So this is E49, 47, 44. So we're just getting from darker to lighter in the E4 category. I am no expert with Copic markers. I have colored a lot with them. I have some good experience, but in terms of like color theory and all that, I just kind of do what looks good. I like to go within the series. So like just saying, okay, I'm just going to go down the E4s rather than mixing too much, just because it's the easier thing to do. And in this case, I'm going to do some really easy things in terms of shadows. There's no light source on my card because these guys are just going to be little beavers that I cut out and decorate my card with. So I don't need to worry if, where the light is coming from. So instead, I just went from dark near his body out to light for his tail, because that just kind of made sense to me that like where it connects with his body would be dark. And that's how I made my choice of where to put my shadow color. Okay, I'm sorry, I realized you couldn't actually see the markers in the last one here, but I did make sure they went into the screen this time. E29, 27, 25, 23, just kind of going down, and that way I can have my darkest color to lightest color without thinking too much about it. This time, I don't want his face to be in shadow, so I'm going to put the shadows on the back side of his body. again, I don't know if that like makes sense with lights. That doesn't matter. So I just choose how I want my overall end result to look. And since I don't want him to have a dark face, I don't want to put the shadows on this side. I want to put the shadows on the other side. So I'll put it along his back. And so then I'll take my darkest color there. Alcohol markers blend quite easily, but you could color them solid colors, you could color them with colored pencils, watercolor, and if coloring is not for you, another thing that I will often do is just find some images on Creative Fabrica, also occasionally on Etsy. People sell clip art there, and you can often use clip art on your cards and cut them out and use those little images. So that's a fun option for those who don't like to color, or you can buy matching ephemera. Lawn Fawn doesn't, to my best of my knowledge, doesn't sell anything like that. But, you know, some paper collections, you can buy coordinating stickers, coordinating die cuts, and things like that, which I like to mix it up. I do a little bit of everything. But when I color, Copics are my favorite, and I'm just going down that line of markers and blending out each successive layer. I will say that I do find Lawn Fawn images to be very friendly for people who are learning to color, no matter what color medium you are learning with. That's for a couple of reasons. There's not a ton of detail to their images, like enough to make it cute, but they, you know, don't have lots of little tiny spaces that you necessarily need to color. The other reason I like them is because the stamp lines, the black lines, are a little bit thicker than some other companies. Not all, but it's just in general a consistently friendly one in terms of the thick lines. And that means that you have a little bit more forgiveness in terms of the marker bleeding out. Lawn Fawn is one of the first companies I ever bought stamps from, and continue to be one of the ones that I look to when I'm looking for new cute critter images. I'm just going to color his nose in a very dark brown and be sure to leave his teeth white. When I was coloring, I actually accidentally colored his teeth, and then you could just take a white pen and come back and draw over that if something like that happens to you. I have Lawn Fawn Raspberry ink, which is a pretty dark pink. And I'm going to try stamping my sentiments directly onto my pattern paper. And you might notice I have each side of the pattern paper as the focal image area. So like this is where I'm going to put my beaver and where I'm going to put my sentiment. So I'm going to try it both ways and see which one I like better. And then the other 4 cards, I'll probably create whichever one I liked better, or I'll maybe mix it up, which is something that's nice about the double-sided paper. Some things I do want to consider is I might place my sentiment on the opposite side to make sure that my beaver is always sort of facing my sentiment. Although honestly, if I stamp it here, I think all the time the beaver will interact like cute, just kind of sitting on top of it. There's a lot of sentiments in these sets, but I chose Happy Heart Day because it seems like the most generic. I do send a lot of cards to kids, but also to senior organizations, and I thought no one's gonna have any feelings about Happy Heart Day, but there are some funnier sentiments that some others might like to use that I thought were pretty funny, and I would probably use if I was, and I think I'll actually use some of them for cards and send them to people I know, but you know, I'm going to put the Happy Heart Day so that no one has any feelings about the picture for the blog post and video and whatever, but I do think those other sentiments are funny. So, and I'll stamp that. And I think that this one maybe looks a little bit more readable, but I think they both work out pretty well. The other thing that I wanted to mention for cardstock scraps, I don't think I've said it yet in this video. I am sorry for my voice. I have been sick for almost a month now with all kinds of respiratory stuff. It just seems to be going around. I can't seem to get better. We've been isolating a lot, not like even going out very much, and yet we still just keep getting hit with different stuff. I don't know. So yeah, is what it is. And I'm sorry for the For the nasally voice, I've tried to kind of just like, oh, you know, I'll wait and I won't record videos for a while, but it's getting too long, and so I need to keep making videos. Anyway, I take 2 pieces of my cardstock scraps because I use the thicker cardstock. You can take even more layers if you use some thinner stuff. And then instead of just, you know, that going to waste because it might be hard to use, I can take a little chunk of it and put that behind my image and pop it up so that I get the look of foam tape, but it's really, really thin. So if you like really, really thin foam tape, this is a great alternative. And I don't have to buy foam tape. I can just help kind of get rid of some of the cardstock in my stash. All those, like the scrap bin won't be endlessly accumulating. So grab your free sketch in the video description below. Thank you to everyone who's already purchased these. I know that a lot of people get really excited about the 12 by 12 because we have a lot of that in our stash, and it can be a little more challenging to use on cards, so I hope you're enjoying all the ideas that were provided. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.